Hey everyone, and welcome to another product deep dive from Sounds Profitable. This month, we're digging into Adori Labs, Gateway to YouTube. And I have with us here the founder of Adori Labs, Nathan Iyer, and Jack Oliphant, who handles strategy and sales for them. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
So Nathan, why don't you tell us a little bit about Adori Labs?
Absolutely. I'll tell a little bit about myself and Adori Labs. I'm Nathan Iyer, co-founder and CEO of Adori Labs. I'm a maker at art. I've been granted 6 patents with others published and pending just for the technology that powers our Adori tool suite. I'd like to introduce Jack Oliphant. Jack was onboarded this year to lead strategy and sales. He comes from a digital media background and with an expertise in podcasts for over last 4+ years. He'll be driving the conversation alongside with Brian in our Gateway to YouTube product deep dive. Jack, over to you.
Thanks so much, Nathan. I really appreciate the kind intro. And Brian, happy to be here today.
Yeah, it's great to work with you in this capacity. We've had a chance to interact over my entire podcast career. So excited to see you leading something really cool here, because this is, like we said, gateway to YouTube, and YouTube has been such a big conversation point in podcasting lately. I think the biggest appeal for so many people is the fact that Google's search engine is probably one of the most powerful out there, and YouTube is powered by a lot of that, and YouTube content also gets into Google search incredibly easy. So when we think about podcasting and expanding forward past just audio, past just in a podcast player, and it being on your website or being in a video format as well, YouTube's kind of a no-brainer because you get all that benefit of growth and availability. So what are we going to walk through exactly today?
100%. And just to reiterate your point, I really do believe that the next 6 to 12 months in the podcasting industry is going to be really focused on YouTube and how to properly integrate your podcast, audio, or RSS feed directly to YouTube. So Adori has built something really wonderful here, super simple, and a 1, 2, 3 step process, which I have queued up for you today. And we're actually using one of your examples of the download in order to drive the conversation forward.
That's awesome. I really love these tools that come out that make it so accessible for someone to dive into something new. So for Sounds Profitable, we had to get video equipment, we had to get a video editor different than audio, and we had to really think through the process for these deep dives that we planned. But that was like a big endeavor, and it took a lot of work and time and effort. But for taking one of our podcasts on there, my co-host Ariel on AdTech Explained, and then the 2 hosts of the download, they don't have a good camera setup. They're not ready for something like that. That wasn't part of what we discussed. So being able to take the audio version we have and do something creative with it so that it is appealing in YouTube is awesome. And I'm really excited to see if this actually can work in 3 steps.
You know, I'm going to try to put the feet to the fire here. And, you know, please be kind with me, because in order to be the best example, I actually did this myself, and I am by no stretch of the means a creator. So I wanted to just have this example of a really easy to use product for someone that doesn't have the expertise nor the budget to include video production into their show. So I think that the download is a perfect example for how Adori can help short form content in terms of podcasts at that magic about 10-minute mark. So we are really using a good case use here, and I'm excited to walk you through the 1, 2, 3 steps. If I'm looking at my other screen, just know that I'm trying to walk you through and demo here, and I'm looking at my camera right now, which is a part of my laptop.
Love it. Okay, so the first step, select the audio. You got the podcast queued up, right?
100%. So here we go. We can add a podcast just by searching the download from Sounds Profitable. And that's how easy it is in order to import your podcast. I also have it queued up here in terms of what it looks like if you typed in the full Sounds Profitable. And that's the first step. We're already there.
That's awesome.
We're about to enhance our show.
And you get your data through listen notes, it looks like, which is really cool, because partnerships in the space, I think, are a really strong way to grow, right? It allows you to focus on what your expertise is and then partner with others that are getting such great data that's so usable.
You're spot on. I mean, I think that the podcast industry for a long time has lived by the idiom, raising tide raises all ships. And that's what we truly believe at Adori. We're trying to help creators as well as publishers and networks in order to add video components to their shows. So this should really be scalable in terms of an individual creator who wants to do this manually or a more automated fashion for larger publishers and networks. So if you're cool,
awesome.
I'm ready to move on to the step 2.
Let's do it. So we're already on step 2. Love it. So you're able to search for any podcast. It pulls from the RSS feed. I don't have to upload any files. This is taking things that are published and expanding on them.
That is exactly correct. And you can see that we're now in the second step. And this is going to be enhance your audio. So I'm going to queue up another tab here. And this is the look in terms of enhancing your audio. So Adori has tags that you're able to manually input, or suggested tags, which is based off of speech to text transcription and natural language processing, or NLP. So if we go back to the manual version, which I've done for you today, again, please be kind. I am no creator, but you can see that there's an audiogram that underlies the entire episode. And then I've manually inputted the different news articles that was featured on your most recent episode. So if you scroll through here, you can see that there are more tags at the different bookmark chapters that y'all identified on your hosting platform. And I'm going to walk you through what that kind of looks like. You can see the green bar, which is going to be that audiogram that will be the bridge between the two different articles that you're speaking to. So if we just click into one of these tags as an example and edit tag. So you can see that I pulled an image from the Morning Brew website, cited it, as well as added a link, which will be in the YouTube episode details. Now,
that's awesome. And so because you took the podcast on there and we put the effort in. So for the people who don't know, the download's released every Friday. It's a 10-minute long podcast and has between 5 and 7 different news topics that we want to cover that broken out into chapters, and they link out to the full article. We identify the what happened and why it matters to the business of podcasting. So by taking that, you have the chapters, so you know exactly where to line it up. You have the content because we list it out in there in the link. And so this was as straightforward as saying, oh, well, we're referencing an article. Why not use the thumbnail? Why not use the header image from that article? And that's simple, right? Like, obviously it took you a little bit to get this set up, but now we have a clear path. This is a creative direction defined by the audio that says, here's the quick upgrade. Here's how you make this a video.
Absolutely. And really the point being is that, this took me about an hour or so of time. So we're taking the amount of time that it takes to buy a video camera in order to install a software program like Adobe Premiere, learning how to use Adobe Premiere, which is pretty darn tough in itself, potentially buying a LinkedIn Learning subscription in order to actually learn the software program. There are a lot of steps within video production, and we're trying to simplify that into 3 easy steps here. So from enhancing the audio file, you can again see that I just walked you through the manual process. There is also the option in order to transcribe your show and identify keywords so that you're able to automate this process as well. So you can see that there are highlighted keywords here, and I've cubed up the Amazon example, and you can start to add these images from Unsplash, which is free and licensable, directly to your audio file. Again, whether that's an uploaded audio file or imported RSS feed. So you really do have 2 options here in terms of a manual format and an automated format, which is really key to creators and publishers.
With the Unsplash integration, I know very little about Unsplash, but I know that each image can have different rights to it. So I assume you're filtering by the ones that allow you to use that. And then do you handle all the correct attribution to the artwork in YouTube? Is that put into the episode details?
The latter we are working on currently. We don't have the capability to pull in the author immediately, but that will absolutely be on our roadmap.
That's
and
fantastic.
For Unsplash in particular, the program is meant for free and licensable images. Something like Getty, for instance, which is another integration that we have, and you can see within the queue here, you might have to pay for a subscription in order to get those images for licensable shows. So I do want to flag that the easiest way to go about this is truly Unsplash versus the Getty, or especially be careful with the Google, because Google will be pulling from the internet, and there are a lot of licensed images on the internet.
Yeah.
So I do want to flag that. But at the same time, this is really automated from actually going in the original manual version, which you can see I pulled the image, I put in the caption, and I put in the link, right? So there are two different options here. And really, the point is to make it applicable, again, to individual content creators as well as publishing houses and networks. And from there, this is our second step. If we continue on, we're going to publish. And I know that you had a couple of questions about what functionality we're able to provide versus YouTube. And you can see the settings in here that will publish your show. So you can augment these settings. We are about half of what the YouTube settings are currently. And of those half are actually business related. So a quarter of the features that we aren't able to offer today are specific to business reasons, not specific to content creation. So we are about halfway there in terms of fully integrating all of the settings from audio to YouTube.
So it's part of the roadmap.
It is 100% part of the roadmap.
That's very
and
cool.
Not only that, but our team works fast and nimble. I've had client requests that have been implemented within 4 business days.
That's really impressive.
So this is really a quick and nimble team, and really impressive team that we have in terms of product and developers and engineers. There aren't a lot of people that I believe that can say that in the podcasting industry. And this is something that I truly believe in Adori Labs for.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we're looking at, we took the RSS feed, we automatically pulled in the episode. We're able to automatically transcribe it. We have the ability to add manually images to it and links to it and use all the features that you have from manual. But then we also have the automated aspect, which highlights keywords from the transcript and gives me suggestions through Unsplash and lets me look at other methods to pull that content in there based on the chapters automatically, pulling all that in, taking advantage of all the metadata my podcast has. And then we get to this last part where it's combined it. My audio is there. We have the image assets, whether manually or automatically added. And now we can just publish. And that publishing is more than enough to go live with. You may want to edit it and add more to it in YouTube directly. But in the near future, that'll all be handled through the push. But basically, we're talking less than an hour total. And this 10-minute podcast is now a video.
That's absolutely correct. And the latter point that you made is spot on. You can actually just edit this in YouTube yourself as well. If you want the remaining functionality, please, by all means, go into YouTube Studio and toggle on the things that you like from there. So we're nearly there in terms of all of the features, but at the same time, we are removing obstacles and hurdles like purchasing $1,000 video camera, like the expertise of Adobe Premiere, which is very in-depth, into a drag and drop functionality backed by an amazing product team.
Heck, even if you were doing this with iMovie and you were pulling everything together on your Mac, at the end of the day, taking time for it to render. making sure that you lined it up correctly, getting it so that it automatically creates the episode details, taking advantage of the data from the RSS feed or the ID3 tagging, making sure that you can augment on top of it instead of rebuilding and redoing everything. That alone's worth it, right? If you don't have pure video assets, this is a great way to create them. So we're already at publish. That was the 3 steps. The next step is it's just live.
The next step brings you into a YouTube video. And by all means, there is buffering here. We are just removing that for the sake of the demo. But at the same time, we go straight into YouTube. And you can see that there are chapters that are automatically populated on the right-hand side with the different call to actions that you saw within the tagging functionality of the enhanced tool. Additionally, if we scroll down, you can see the timestamps and you can see the transcript. There are character limits, so I shorten this up a little bit and bump the timestamps to the top so that you are really able to see the different chapters very easily. And what this is going to allow you to do is be able to discover and increase your SEO ranking. So even if you wanted to use this as a marketing tool in order to drive to a podcatcher of your choice, that is something that you can absolutely do. Shorten the format to 5 minutes, put in some visually compelling assets, and drive directly to a podcatcher of your choice.
This is awesome, and I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to see this full experience. The episode's only 10 minutes long, so we're going to add it to the end of this deep dive, and then also we're going to have links out to it so you can experience it on YouTube directly and take advantage of all the different chapter markers and everything. So, I mean, you did it. You showed me this in 1, 2, 3, which was fantastic. This is one of the features of Adori Labs. I know there's so many more things you guys are working on, but this was the focus as podcasting starts to take YouTube more seriously, as YouTube starts to take podcasting more seriously. And I'm excited for this. So one of the big things that I always like to give you the platform to have as a product deep dive is if someone was interested in checking this out today, what would you like to offer them so that they can sign up and get started?
Absolutely. That's a great call out. And you know, what you can do today is go to the onboarding link. You can get $5 free of credit immediately, and you get an additional $15 of credit when you input a credit card. So you're really getting $20 if you do input a credit card. But immediately you get $5 for free, no credit card required.
And now for comparison's sake, making a video like this would take how much in credit?
Definitely within $5.
That's pretty cool.
So you can absolutely do this. We have a metered approach where you're charged on usage, not on consumption. So this is not a CPM price method for all the nerds out there in terms of the monetization world. This is a metered approach based on usage and minutes of content. So $5 would absolutely get you this video that I created by myself, no help from Nathan, all alone in Santa Monica.
But I think that's a good thing, right? Because like I've edited my podcast, I've edited none of these videos, but I don't do it day to day. And someone that finds this appealing, someone that's going to be the ideal customer for this is someone who is interested in exploring into YouTube. Maybe it's a gateway. Maybe they set up an entire studio because of it, but there's still times where you're trying something new and you just need video content, because putting a flat image throughout the whole thing is not going to work well on YouTube. Just doing a flat audiogram sometimes work, but not always. But having it interactive, having something that changes dynamically with the chapters and content, having it click out, all of those different things there drive engagement, or at minimum, play to the algorithms in YouTube and Google search that benefit you, because that's why you're on YouTube. Your podcast is on YouTube because you want to get more visibility. So this is fantastic. With that metered approach, it looks like you can get about 4 of these up there and running for shorter episodes. Basically, everybody should give it a shot. And thank you, Jack, so much for walking us through this. Nathan, thank you for creating such a neat product. And I'm excited to hear from everybody who watches this how their experience it was. And definitely tag us on Twitter or shoot us an email with a link to your Adori Labs video so we can check it out.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Bryan. Really appreciate the time.
Really appreciate it. And Bryan, I think that's just not me, but the team sitting behind me working so hard. And they've done an excellent job. When we saw this opportunity at the last podcast conference, we said we definitely need to build this for our creators, because our creators need to take advantage of this and add a new form of monetization in addition to what they're already getting. So this has been great. Thank you, Bryan, so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
This is the download from Sounds Profitable, the most important news from this week and why it matters to people in the business of podcasting. I'm Manuela Bedoya.
And I'm Shreya Sharma. On the download today, adtech firms are under fire for data scraping. Amazon joins the social audio market, and YouTube is paying podcasters to incorporate video. Let's get started.
Morning Brew's Ryan Barwick reports that trade groups acting on behalf of publishers from the US, UK, and Canada are accusing adtech firms of unfairly scraping metadata from websites. Once collected, this allegedly ill-gotten data is used to create contextual advertising segments for clients without the publisher's consent, also undercutting the publisher's attempts to directly sell contextual advertising deals. Quote, "Now that third-party cookies are dying and some ad dollars are shifting to contextual advertising, ads based on the content of the media, not on personal information, publishers want a better seat at the table in stronger terms as the industry adopts new technologies." End quote. Richard Reeves, managing director of the Association of Online Publishers, summarized the issue of companies scraping data. Quote, "What we are now seeing is people almost brazenly walking through your home and removing your furniture and selling your assets elsewhere, and you don't even know that they're doing it, or you can't receive any value for it. Just because you can doesn't mean you should." End quote. Data scraping isn't new to podcasting either. Transcription happens in podcasting with and without a publisher's consent. It's likely, however, this wider publisher issue plays out will have trickle-down effects to what companies can do with unlicensed podcast transcripts.
Amazon has a new social audio app to make podcasters' dreams of being a DJ come true. Brad Hill of Rain News reports, quote, "While early reports compare AMP to Clubhouse, Amazon's promotional emphasis is on building interactive music shows, something like live interactive radio." End quote. AMP actually brings to mind an obscure podcasting tool Spotify launched for Anchor in late 2020. The feature was titled Shows with Music at launch. It allows podcasters on Anchor to slot any song in the Spotify catalog between any pre-recorded podcast segments. Listeners with Spotify Premium would experience a seamless transition as if the music was baked into the podcast, while free listeners would hear a 30-second preview of the song. Shows with Music still exists, technically, but has fallen by the wayside to become a feature hidden in the Anchor interface, much like the forgotten podcasts from big-name creators that we touched upon last week. AMP, conversely, only requires listeners to sign up for a free account to listen to creators. The Verge's Jack Castronakes writes, quote, "Amazon is positioning this as more of a radio-style service than a live chat service. There's even a 5-person cap on callers right now, which is probably for the best." End quote. Spotify's Shows with Music was a cool feature that enabled podcasters to live out their radio DJ dreams in a copyright-friendly manner. Another platform with a massive collection of licensed content at their disposal, playing in a podcasting adjacent space might just lead to more creativity and innovation in the social audio sphere.
On Tuesday, podcasting adtech company Gumball announced they had raised $10 million in Series A funding. Brad Hill of Rain News reports, quote, Gumball, which was started by podcast comedy network HeadGum, allows advertisers to programmatically buy pre-recorded host-read ads. The system offers real-time inventory browsing, demographic audience targeting, and verification of placement and listening. The company lists a few brands which have used the system: Casper, CBS, Netflix, OkCupid, Squarespace, Warby Parker, and others. End quote. Naturally, the Gumball system is deployed across the entire HeadGum network, serving ads on flagship podcasts like The Doughboys, Punch Up the Jam, and We Hate Movies.
YouTube is taking podcasting seriously enough to put their money where their mouth is. Last Friday, Bloomberg's Ashley Carman reported both independent podcasters and podcast networks, all of which have asked for anonymity, received offers from YouTube, ranging from $50,000 to $300,000 to create filmed versions of their episodes, as well as, quote, other kinds of videos. Historically, video podcasts on YouTube have done well, as the platform matured from cat clips to encouraging content creators to make longer and longer content. The unedited video chat show took off. Productions like the H3H3 podcast and the Joe Rogan Experience saw great success embracing the platform. That said, we agree with Carmen when she says, quote, however, the cost to build a studio, hire editors, and develop a fully functioning video publishing pipeline can deter networks and shows from adopting the platform. End quote. In addition to these cash injections implying YouTube wants to seed more of a professionally produced podcasting atmosphere, there's small infrastructure moves to suggest that this is a long-term plan. Alex Castro at The Verge reminds readers that back in October, YouTube began allowing Canadian users to listen to videos, while the device was not focusing on the YouTube app or was locked. As YouTube Power users in the US can attest, this feature is pushed very hard in YouTube Premium advertising as a good reason to sign up. Without putting on a podcast-branded tinfoil hat, it seems like making the ability to use YouTube like a podcasting app would be a huge step towards YouTube courting more podcasters as well as their audiences.
On Tuesday, The Hollywood Reporter's J. Clara Chan published an exclusive announcement that UTA has launched Audio IQ, a data analytics service to facilitate podcast deals. The service will make use of social media, search results, and other open source data to inform both clients and agents of a podcast's health to facilitate deal making. Quote, while podcast analytics can often rely on historical data points like number of downloads or past revenue, UTA's Audio IQ Analyses also offers future projections, a tool that is particularly key in negotiations for shows that have not yet launched or for identifying emerging talent. End quote. Audio IQ comes onto the field as massive podcast outfits buy up previously third-party analytics companies. See our February 18th episode for coverage of the Spotify acquisition of Chartable. And that atmosphere has UTA IQ lead Joe Kessler concerned. As Kessler is quoted by Chan's article, quote, I'm hopeful that this announcement serves as a wake-up call for the podcasting industry to somehow coalesce around a common source of truth and data for the industry, because it's sorely needed as it's maturing. End quote.
Finally, a smaller bit of news. That's not technically a full news story yet, but we feel is worth keeping an eye on as things develop. There was something about Tuesday this week that led to podcasting announcements. Ashley Carman tweeted the exclusive scoop that 3 senior leaders at Megaphone are leaving. CEO Brendan Monaghan, CRO Matt Turk, and COO Jason Cox. All in their positions prior to the Spotify buyout, have been confirmed to be leaving the company after their 1-year contracts expired. The 3 are now starting a blockchain company.
And that was the download from Sounds Profitable. I know we went through these fast, so be sure to check out the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app or on soundsprofitable.com/the-download. And thanks for sticking with us as we continue to make tweaks to this grand experiment to give you the best stories you might have missed from the past week. I'm Manuela Bedoya.
And I'm Shreya Sharma. Special thanks to Ian Powell for his audio prowess, Gavin Gaddis for writing today's script, and to Omni Studio for hosting The Download. And as always, thanks to you for joining us. Robot.
Download complete. I am Steve.